In this lecture, we shall discuss the concept of divisibility in integers. Divisibility. So we have integers a and b with a not equal to 0. So let ab belong to z. Z is the set of integers and a is not equal to 0. We say a divides b, or a is a divisor of b. So we say that a divides b, or a is a divisor of b, or we say b is a multiple of a, or b is a multiple of a, provided there is an integer k. If there is an integer k such that b equal to k times a, b is equal to k times a. These a and b, they can be negative integers also. For example, 2 divides 4, because you can write 4 as 2 times some integer k. So you can take minus 2 divides 10. 10 you can write as minus 5 times minus 2. So you can consider negative integers also. The only requirement is the divisor should be non-zero. 5 divides 0. Can I say that? Yes, 0 is equal to 0 times 5. So I can say 5 divides 0. I cannot say 0 divides 7. Such a thing we don't say. That is, we do not define divisibility by 0. Here, if a divides b, we write a divides b. This is a symbol. Otherwise, we write a does not divide b. A does not divide b. There is also concept of exactly dividing. When you have powers like a raised to k is a power, so let k be a positive integer. We say that a raised to k exactly divides b A raised to k divides B, but A raised to k plus 1 does not divide B. Then we say A raised to k exactly divides B. We write in this case A raised to k like this, exactly divides B. This is the notation for A raised to k exactly divides B. This relation divisibility that gives a partial order on the set of positive integers. So A divides B gives rise to a partial order on the set of positive integers. So you have A divides A. Every integer, positive integer divides itself. That is reflexive property. Then we have antisymmetric, that is A divides B, B divides A, that implies A equal to B. And third is A divides B, B divides C, implies A divides C. That is the transitive property. So this is a partial order on the set of positive integers. We also have very standard simple properties of division, and let us write these properties in the form of a theorem. Here we are taking A, B in Z. The first property, suppose A divides B, then A divides BC for any C in Z. So A divides B implies A divides BC for any C in Z. Here when I say A divides B, I already have in mind that A is non-zero. That's the assumption, although we do not write it here. A divides B implies A divides BC for any C in Z. All these properties can be proved easily by using the definition. A divides B, B divides C implies A divides C, which I have written there for positive integers. Here I am writing for all integers. The third property is A divides B, A divides C implies, so A divides two numbers B and C, then A divides what is called a linear combination of these numbers. A divides AX plus BX plus CY, a combination of B and C for all XY belonging to Z. A divides B, A divides C implies A divides BX plus CY for all XY in Z. A divides B, B divides A. What does this conclude? This implies plus or minus B. So A equal to plus or minus B. Because we are considering now integers, so A and B can be negatives of each other. That's possible. Another property is, suppose A and B are natural numbers. If A divides B, where A and B, they are natural numbers, they are in the set N, then A is less than equal to B. A is less than equal to B. And one more property, that if M is not equal to 0, if M not equal to 0, A divides B if and only if MA divides MB. MA divides MB. So it means, so A divides B, you can multiply by M and get this, that is possible. If MA divides MB and M is not equal to 0, you can cancel M and get A divides B, that is also possible. That is what this property says. All these properties can be proved easily using the definition. For example, let me just look at the first property. 1. Suppose A divides B. Therefore, there exists K in Z such that B is equal to K times A. B is equal to K times A. Now you want to look at B times C. So B times C will be equal to Ka times C. And now this is, you have to see that A should divide this. So write it as Kc times A. Kc times A. So this is a multiple of A from this, and therefore A divides BC. So I have only used the definition of divisibility and I have obtained the first property. In a similar way, you can get these remaining properties. For example, here you write B is equal to K1 times A, C is equal to K2 times B, and from that you can get C is equal to K1 K2 times A, and therefore A divides C. So these properties are simple properties. They follow directly from the definition of divisibility, and you can do this as exercises. Another exercise I will give. So suppose, so exercise, suppose A divides B1, A divides B2, etc. A divides Bn. So that A divides summation Ci Bi I equal to 1 to n, where Ci are integers. Okay. Proof is again similar. Now we will see an important algorithm which is called division algorithm. Division algorithm, here we take AB in Z, where A is integer, A bigger than 0. So the idea is you divide B by A and you should get a quotient and remainder that should be unique. So there exists unique integers, then there exists, this is symbol for there exists unique integers Q and R such that B equal to A times Q plus R, where 0 less than equal to R less than A. 0 less than equal to R less than A. So we will prove this division algorithm that there always exist such integers Q and R. Here I am taking A positive, but there is no restriction on B. B can be a negative integer also. If I take, for example, 15 and I am dividing by A equal to 4, then I can say this is A into Q. So 4 multiplied by 3, this is Q plus R, that is 3. If I take instead of 15, let us say minus 15, then I can still get similarly minus 4 into 3. So 4 is the number by which we are dividing. So 4 into minus 3. But then here I will be getting 3. Instead of 3 I am getting minus 3 here. So what I will do is I will write instead of minus 3 minus 4. And now this will become plus 1. This is now an integer which satisfies the requirement that here A is equal to 4 I am taking, and this number is required to be between 0 and 3. That is what it happens. So for negative numbers you can use the calculation for positive numbers also, but you have to be slightly careful that you should get the remainder between 0 and A minus 1. So the proof of this, first part is existence. Existence, that we want to show that there exists Q and R which satisfy the requirement. This, what we do is you consider the sequence. So B minus 2 times A, so I am dividing by A. So I am considering this sequence B minus 2A, B minus A, B, B plus A, B plus 2A, and so on. On both sides it's extending. Okay. This is a sequence which is a double sequence, you can say. It is increasing on this side, it is decreasing on this side. Initially there may be negative numbers, but A is positive. So when you go on adding A, eventually the numbers have to become positive. So you take the smallest positive number in this, because on this side the numbers are decreasing, they will become negative after some time. So you take the smallest positive number in this sequence and you call that as R. Okay. So let R be smallest, now non-negative, integer in this sequence. Now it is clear that this number r is non-negative, so bigger equal 0, then 0 less than equal to r, okay, and it is less than a. R is less than a, because if it is bigger than a, then if I consider the previous number, that was this number minus a, that would also be a non-negative number in this, and that will be smaller than this. So I want smallest non-negative integer in this sequence. So this r has to be less than a. And already we have the form that and r is equal to b plus k times a for some k in z. R we have in the form, because it is in this sequence, so it is of the form b plus k times a. Therefore we have r, so we have b is equal to minus k times a plus r, and we are done here, because you can take now k is this minus k equal to q. So take q equal to minus k, then b is equal to a times q plus r with q in z, and r is already an integer, 0 less than equal to r less than a. That's what we wanted. So that proves the existence, that there is an integer k and a non-negative integer less than k, less than a, such that we get b equal to aq plus r. Now you want to prove uniqueness, that there is exactly one q and exactly one a, exactly one r that satisfy these requirements. So suppose b is equal to a times qi plus ri, I equal to 1, 2, as above. That is q1, q2, they are required to be in z, r1, r2, they are non-negative integers which are less than a. Now you take, so a times q1 plus r1 equal to a times q2 plus r2. And therefore a into q1 minus q2 is equal to r2 minus r1. Now a divides r2 minus r1. So you can consider mod of r1 minus r2. So a divides mod of r2 minus r1, which is a non-negative integer, and it will be less than a. Here 0 less than equal to mod of r2 minus r1, which is less than a. That is because both these numbers r1 and r2, they are between 0 and a. So I have this 0 and a, and these r1, r2 are somewhere in between 0 and a. They are smaller than a. So the distance between these two, that is mod of r2 minus r1, is smaller than distance between a and 0. So we have this property, and a divides this. Okay, a divisor is a smaller So if it is positive, then it will be smaller. So that means this R2 minus R1, that is going to be 0. So mod of R2 minus R1, that will be 0. Multiple of A will be 1 times A, 2 times A, 0 times A, or minus 1 times A, etc. If it is less than A, it has to be 0, and therefore R1 is equal to R2. Mod is 0 means the number is 0. So R1 equal to R2. If you have R1 equal to R2 in this, then from this you will see that A into Q1 minus Q2 is 0. Therefore A into Q1 minus Q2 equal to 0. Now A is not equal to 0, therefore Q1 minus Q2 equal to 0, and therefore Q1 equal to Q2. So let me write it here, that A not equal to 0 gives Q1 minus Q2 equal to 0, that is Q1 equal to Q2. This proves uniqueness. Okay. So we have existence and uniqueness of these Q and R. We have obtained these Q and R by a specific procedure. So we are writing these numbers B minus A, B minus 2A, etc. on one side, and then B plus A, B plus 2A, B plus 3A, and so on. We are taking the smallest non-negative element from this, that we are calling it as R, and then we are getting the value of Q. So the theorem, actually division algorithm theorem, tells you existence of Q and R, but the procedure for finding Q and R is also there, that is you have to use this sequence. That is one way of getting Q and R. And the other is the usual division of this A, this B by A. In the usual arithmetic division, this is also an algorithm, step-by-step procedure to get the quotient and get the remainder. So that's why it is called division algorithm. And this is a very important algorithm used in many problems. If you want to get these Q and A by means of a calculator or a software, what you have to do is you divide. Usually the softwares or calculator, they can give you B by A as some decimal number, 7 point. So maybe B by A is equal to 7.1523. Some such answer you will get by using a calculator or a software which does division. And then we look at the integral part, which is easy to find out, that is 7 in this case. So integral part of B by A, that is 7, and this is the value of Q. This symbol is for integral part, that is the greatest integer less than equal to. So integral part of x is the greatest integer which is less than equal to x. Greatest integer less than equal to x, that is the integral part. It's also called as the floor function. In combinatorics books, this is written in this way. So these two are same, that is greatest integer less than equal to x. And when you have a calculation of this type, this number, which is the integral part, that is the value of Q, uniquely determined. And once you know Q, one can find out the remainder by R equal to, so find R by R is equal to B minus A times Q. Okay. So you can find Q and R by using a software when the numbers are large. Okay. Now we shall be studying GCD. In the study of congruences, this is very much required. How to get GCD of two numbers? So first of all, we have the concept of common divisor. So definition: common divisor so this is a simple concept, straightforward. So if A divides B and A divides C, we say that A is a common divisor of B and C. Is a common divisor of B and C. For a given number, how many divisors are possible? For a given integer, how many divisors are possible? So, suppose your number B is positive. Now, a positive divisor of this number, it has to be less than or equal to the given number. Okay, A is less than or equal to B if A divides B and A is positive, B is positive. A divisor can be negative if you want to consider negative divisors, but then if a negative number divides, then its mod also will divide. Okay, that is A divides B, A is negative suppose. Then mod of A is positive, that also is a divisor that has finitely many possibilities. Therefore, so any given integer will have a finite number of divisors, whether you consider them as positive or negative. So that is just understanding. Any non-zero integer has a finite number of divisors. And now we have the concept of greatest common divisor. So, definition: GCD are the greatest common divisor. GCD or the greatest common divisor. So if B and C are two integers, C are integers with at least one non-zero. At least one of them is non-zero. Then there will be finitely many common divisors, because the one which is non-zero, that will have finitely many divisors. See, 0 is divisible by every integer. So if B and C are integers with at least one non-zero, then B and C have a finite number of common divisors. The greatest, that is largest of them, is called the greatest common divisor or GCD of the given numbers. It is the greatest common divisor of the given numbers. So the GCD of B and C of B and C is denoted by BC. BC. This is the notation which is very common in number theory for the GCD, greatest common divisor. For example, say 4 and 10. The GCD is 2. What is the GCD of minus 4 and 10? Again 2. See that the GCD is always a positive number. Okay? Because it is largest and we always have positive divisor if there is negative divisor. What is the GCD of 0 and 20? One of the numbers is 0, other is 20. Now common divisor, see 0 is divisible by every non-zero integer. But 20, it has only finitely many divisors. So common divisor means a divisor which is a divisor of 20 will be a common divisor of these two. And the largest one is 20 itself, so the GCD of 0 and 20 is 20. Okay. What is GCD of 0 and minus 20? That is again 20. But we cannot think, so of A and B both are 0, we don't have that situation. Although we have GCD of 20, 20, that we can consider. That is 20. But 0, 0, that we do not define. Because there is no largest. There is no common divisor. Divisors are there, common divisors. Every non-zero integer, common divisor. You cannot think of largest. So this is how we can get GCD when one of the numbers B and C is non-zero. And we can also consider n quantities, n integers. So if B1, B2, Bn are integers, not all 0. If they are not all 0, we can similarly consider their GCD, and it is denoted by a similar notation. It is denoted by B1, B2, Bn. Okay. So this greatest common divisor for any two integers or any n integers we can define. But requirement is this, here for n integers not all 0. That's what is required. An important property of the GCD is that the GCD is always what is called as a linear combination of the given numbers. So this is the next theorem that we want to consider. Let BC belong to Z, not both 0. Let G equal to BC. That is, it is a GCD of B and C. Then it is a combination of B and C. Then there are integers x0, y0 such that G is equal to AX naught plus BY naught. AX naught plus BY naught. This is a very useful result, that the GCD is a combination of the given numbers. This is a combination with integer coefficients. For this also, for the proof of this, we consider an idea similar to the one we use for the division algorithm. So, to prove this, that there exist integers x naught, y naught such that G is AX naught plus BY naught. For this, let us consider all linear combinations of A and B. I'm sorry, this is B and C. So, B and C are in Z. So, let me write B times X naught and C times Y naught. Okay. So, proof is, you consider all linear combinations. So these are Bx plus Cy, Bx plus Cy with Xy in Z. Now, this collection of integers certainly has positive integers in it. Okay, that is clear, because you are taking xy as arbitrary in Z, and B and C are not both zero, at least one of them is non-zero. So we take the least positive integer from this. So let L be the least positive integer from this collection. The claim is that then L is a divisor of both B and C. We claim that L divides B and L divides C. Let's suppose not. Suppose L does not divide B. Then what happens? So suppose, if possible, L does not divide B. If L does not divide B, then we can divide B by L, get some quotient and get some remainder. So there exists unique QR in Z with 0 less than equal to R less than L, such that B is equal to Q times L plus R. Okay. We are dividing B by L, getting the quotient Q, getting the remainder R. Now this R is can be written in terms of B and L. Therefore, R equal to B minus Q times L. And this L is already among these numbers Bx plus Cy. Okay. So already L equal to C x1 or Bx1, let us say Bx1 plus C y1 with x1 y1 belonging to Z. You can write L because L was already in this collection. So it's a combination of B and C. There exists x1 and y1 in Z with L equal to this. Substitute it over here and you can do some adjustment, and we see that R itself, therefore R is a linear combination of B and C with integer coefficients. With integer coefficients. Now you see that this was the least positive integer from this collection. L was the least positive integer from this collection. And L doesn't divide B, that would mean that R is a positive quantity. So moreover we can say R is positive. Since L does not divide B, R is bigger than 0. Right? Initially it can be 0, but L doesn't divide B, so R has to be positive. And now we have got a positive integer in this collection Bx plus Cy, which is smaller than this L. L was supposed to be the least positive integer in this collection. That means we are having a contradiction. So this is a contradiction. And the contradiction tells us that L divides B. Therefore L divides B. L divides B. And in a similar manner, we can say L divides C. Similarly, L divides C. Now, suppose we have G to be the GCD, then we have to show that G is equal to L. If you show that, see, L is a combination of the given numbers. If you show GCD is L itself, then the GCD is a combination. So suppose G is the GCD of B and C. So G is a divisor of both. Okay, it's a common divisor. Therefore G divides B and G divides C. So let B equal to G times B1 and C equal to G times C1. Therefore, what is L? L equal to? L is Bx1 plus Cy1. Y1. But B I can write as GB1 and C I can write as GC1. And so it is G into something. And therefore G divides L. G divides L. And G divides L would mean that G is less than or equal to L. We can say G is less than or equal to L. Okay, because G is the greatest common divisor and L is a divisor which is a positive divisor. It is G is dividing L, so G is less than or equal to L. What about the other way? Other way also is true, that also L is a divisor of both B and C, and G is GCD. G is greatest. Therefore, L is less than or equal to G. So, G less than or equal to L less than or equal to G, therefore, L is equal to G. L equal to G. And L is already a combination of the given numbers B and C. Therefore, G is a combination. G is a linear combination. G is a linear combination of B and C with integer coefficients. That's what we wanted. Here, these coefficients are not uniquely determined. Although G is a combination of the given numbers B and C, the coefficients are not uniquely determined. So note, if we write the GCD G as G equal to, let us say, B x naught plus C y naught with x naught y naught belonging to Z, the coefficients x naught and y naught are not uniquely determined. The coefficients are not uniquely determined. Because we can also have, G equal to, once we have this, we have B into x naught plus, let us say, K times C plus C into y naught minus K times B. Suppose I write like this, B x naught plus C y naught, that is same, B K C and minus B K C, that gets cancelled, and you change the value of K in Z. We have plenty of ways of writing the GCD as an integer linear combination of the given numbers. This is a point to be noted. The next theorem that we will see will give another interpretation of the GCD. Right now we are saying GCD means it's a common divisor of the numbers B and C, and it is largest among all divisors. The second interpretation is that it's a common divisor, and if we have a common divisor, that has to divide this. So that is another interpretation. So the theorem says that these two conditions are equivalent. So let BC belong to Z, not both 0, not both 0. The following are equivalent. The following are equivalent. One, G is the GCD of the numbers B and C. That means it's a common divisor, that is G is the largest common divisor of B and C. Second is G has the following property. G is a common divisor G is a common divisor of B and C, and if D is a common divisor of both B and C, then D divides G. That's the requirement. D divides, any common divisor should divide this. So these two are equivalent. You can consider any one of them as the definition of GCD. So for this we use the result that we have proved just now, that the GCD is a combination of the given numbers. So proof 1 implies 2, 1 implies 2. Suppose G is GCD. Suppose G equal to GCD of A and B. Then anyway it is a common divisor. Suppose D is a common divisor, then it should divide G. But we use the property of G that there exists x naught y naught in Z such that G is equal to, so I'm sorry, again I have written A and B. So B and C, the numbers are B and C. Suppose G is B and C. So G is Bx naught plus Cy naught. There exists x naught y naught in Z such that G is a combination. Let D be a divisor, be a common divisor. Of B and C. So if D divides B and D divides C, then D will divide Bx naught, D will divide Cy naught, therefore D will divide the sum and therefore D will divide G. So therefore D divides B, D divides C, so D divides Bx naught, D divides Cy naught, and so D divides G, okay, because G is x naught plus Cy naught. So the second property is satisfied by G. Now you assume 2, 2 implies 1. So take any divisor. So basically G is already a common divisor. Is it largest? That is the question. So for any common divisor, D of B and C, we have D divides G, okay? G is a number which has this property. G is already a common divisor and D divides G, and therefore, so if D is positive, even if it is negative, it is less equal, but in this I will require, it's a common divisor and it's a positive is required in this. So let me just make a small change in that. G has the following property. G is bigger or equal 1, that is at least this positive is required, and G is a common divisor of B and C. If D is common divisor of both, then D has to divide G. So we have D divides G. Since G is positive, okay, D has to be less than or equal to G. Any divisor of G has to be less than or equal to G, and therefore G is greatest common divisor of B and C. It is the greatest common divisor of B and C. That's what we wanted. So these two properties are equivalent properties, and many times we use the second property for a GCD. So we stop here today.